The metro is the beating heart of the city of Paris. Iconic in its design, each metro stop bears a person's name, an event, or a landmark that helped shape France and her culture that we know today. In this podcast, we will take the metro to the Enlightenment, past the French Resistance, through the Franco-Prussian War to the Revolution. We will stop at great intellects, artists and innovators and discover how France and Paris were made and the people that made her. Let's travel through French history one station at a time. Welcome to Metro Stop Podcast. Agen, 1822. The scent of pomade and pipe smoke fills the air. Scissors snip, razors glide, and laughter spills from the barber shops on the Gravier. But amid the clatter, a voice rises, not in Parisian French, but in the warm, musical tones of Occitan. It's Jacques Jasmin, composing a verse between haircuts, spinning tales of washerwomen, tailors, and lovers, with the rhythm of a troubadour and the heart of a romantic. He is no salon poet, he's the people's poet, and his language, the lenga, is not a dialect to be dismissed, but a legacy to be sung. This is Metro Stop Podcast, and I'm your host, Kelly Blair. Jasmin is a station on line 9 and serves the 16th arrondissement. It was opened on 8th of November 1922. It's a standard configuration station. It has 2 platforms separated by the metro tracks. The vault is elliptical. The decoration is in the style used for most of the stations. Beveled white ceramic tiles cover the straight walls, vault, tunnel exits and corridor outlets. The advertising frames are made of honey-coloured tiles, and the name of the station is also in blue ceramic. The motte-style seats are red. There is a cultural poster about our hero on the platform, in the direction of the Marie de Montreuil. Jacques Jasmin, born Jacques Boy in 1798, led a life that was humble, rooted and remarkably consistent. His father was a tailor with a flair for humorous verse, and this was his earliest influence. Jasmin often accompanied him to fairs and gatherings, watching and listening to his father's verses and absorbing the rhythms of oral poetry. Jasmin was deeply attached to his hometown, Agen, rarely leaving it except for poetry tours across southern France. In 1835, he travelled to Bordeaux and recited his Blind Girl of Castelcuit, and again in 1836 in Toulouse, and he was met with an enthusiastic reception in both culturally important cities. He had an undeniable gift for poetry, for writing and performing verses to the public. He would travel all over as a troubadour and a jongleur, often donating proceeds from his public readings to charitable causes, including hospitals and schools. He was known for his generosity and civic pride. No marriage records or known romantic partnerships are associated with Jasmin. His biographies and public records suggest he lived a bachelor's life. He had no children, and his legacy was carried through his poetry and public readings rather than familial descendants. In 1825, he published his first collection, Papillottos, which means curl papers. A mix of poems written in French, used sparingly and with restraint, and more importantly, in the everyday Agen dialect, the language of the working classes, Occitan. It was in this popular tongue that he would go on to create all of his later literary triumphs. 4 successive volumes of Papillottos would be published in his lifetime. So what is Occitan, and why does it matter? Occitan, known regionally as lenga or Languedoc in French, is a Romance language once widely spoken across southern France, parts of Italy and Spain. It predates modern French and was the language of medieval troubadours. Unlike French, which evolved from northern dialects and became standardised through Parisian influence, Occitan retained a rich diversity of regional forms, including Provençal, Gascon and Limousin. It is distinct from French. Occitan has its own grammar, vocabulary, and phonetics. It presents a strong cultural identity. It was the everyday, living, expressive language of southern peasants, artisans, and poets, often dismissed as a patois by the Parisian cultural snobs and elites of the Académie Française, which basically means Occitan was belittled as a mere rustic dialect rather than recognised as a full language with its own richness and legitimacy. So, Jasmin's choice to write in Occitan was radical. He gave voice to a language many considered unfit for poetry, proving that beauty and dignity could flourish just as beautifully outside of the salons of Paris. Jasmin wrote with an emotional style, tender, direct, and deeply human. He often wrote about the poor, the sick, and the forgotten, giving poetic voices to those rarely heard in 19th century literature. He made poetry accessible and relevant, writing about ordinary people in their own tongue. Jasmin's fierce defence and preservation of elevated Occitan, inspiring a literary revival that would culminate in the Félibrige movement. This was a movement founded in 1854 near Avignon by 7 poets led by Frédéric Mistral. The name Félibrige comes from the Provençal word félibre. Their goal was to give dignity and permanence to the Languedoc. They had a patriotic and cultural mission to resist the dominance of Parisian French and restore pride in the southern identity and elevate Occitan to the level of national recognition. Frédéric Mistral became a towering figure of the movement. He won a Nobel Prize in Literature in 1904, and he compiled the Occitan Dictionary, cementing the language's scholarly foundation. Today, Occitan is considered seriously endangered by UNESCO, though it survives in literature, music and regional pride. And the Félibrige still exists to champion linguistic preservation across Europe. But it was Jacques Jasmin who laid the foundation and helped bridge oral tradition and literary form, turning carnival rhymes into cultural heritage. Despite his growing fame as a poet, he continued working as a barber and wig maker in Agen until his death in 1864. His shop on the Gravier became a local landmark. Despite his modest lifestyle, Jasmin was awarded the Legion of Honour and celebrated by the elites in the Académie Française, like Lamartine and Victor Hugo. He was a member of the Academy of Sciences, Letters and Arts of Agen. This affirmed his place in the cultural legacy of southern France. Jasmin's personal life was quiet, almost monastic in its devotion to poetry and community. He lived simply, wrote passionately, and became an enduring symbol of regional pride and poetic dignity. This is Metro Stop Podcast. My main source for this season's biographies was Britannica, but I referenced different sources about the work and the cultural impact. They are all listed in the show notes. Music by Keys of Moon. You can follow me on Instagram at Metro Stop Podcast.